My name's Trude Diamond. My pronouns are, in this context, we, our, and because I've been in the South so long, y'all. And I was raised culturally Jewish by deist wolves, shall we say. So here's my Hanukkah story. As I think has been said this morning, or you may have guessed from the lighting of one candle a day, on Hanukkah, children get one gift per day for 8 days. They're children, one small gift for one small child. And since I was not bat mitzvahed into official adulthood at age 12, my parents marked my maturity that year, which some still question, by elevating my Hanukkah gift list from daily little presents to one grown-up present, and giving me one new responsibility, because grown-up. And that responsibility was that I had to contribute from my allowance and my extra earnings 7 small gifts that I made or bought from my allowance savings for needy children who attended the Jewish Community Center's Hanukkah celebration. And I also, lucky grown-up me, got to join Mom as one of the Latka ladies working in the kitchen at that event. I was no good in the kitchen. They just let me smile and serve. But I want to thank my mother. That was the real gift. Learn that adulthood means service. She didn't know I was going to be a you-you. But she was right.
Thank you, Trudy. Will Bob Busing, Chair of the Unitarian Universalist of Clearwater Endowment Fund, and Margie Manning, UUC Board President, please come forward.
Good morning, everybody. This is the absolute highlight of the year for the Endowment Foundation. This wonderful church has an endowment foundation, and once a year, we gather up the funds that are available and we give a grant to the Board of Trustees of UUC for their mission. This year, I am pleased to announce that that grant is the largest ever. It's $57,591. You may ask yourselves, where did that come from? And the answer is, it came from people just like you. We have about between 40 and 50 members, most of whom have passed away, but they left as a legacy and as an act of love for this institution, money that can be used to provide in perpetuity support into the future for this fine congregation. So every year we remind people that you, when you're doing your legacy, can think about the Endowment Foundation, you can think about an unrestricted gift to the Board of Trustees for immediate needs, or you can think of a capital gift to the Board of Trustees. All those are good. They're all wonderful, and whichever one suits your style and needs would be great. So every year we try to do something educational, and this year, thanks to Margie, we've expanded our mission in our education outreach. On January 21st, that's a Saturday at 3 o'clock, we have a volunteer attorney named Erica Smith who's going to spend 2 hours in the social hall, and she's going to spend time on what documents you should have in place right now for your life, what documents you should have in place for your estate work, and how legacy works. The significance of this is that we've asked her to provide lots of question and answer time so that anybody who has a question can get it answered at that event on January 21st at 3 o'clock. So it's a combined joint project of the Board of Trustees and the Foundation Board, but we think it will help all of us And this year, we are opening it to the community. We've invited members of churches in the area, and we've done some publicity, and we thought this is a community service, and we should make sure that everybody has an opportunity to get this important information so that they can express their act of love for their loved ones by having their affairs in order, and for their organizations like UUC to express their values. That's what this is about. Margie?
Thank you, Bob. I'm very grateful for the love of those who came long before many of us ever walked through these doors, who had the foresight to think of us. And I'm very hopeful that those of us here will think of those who have yet to walk through this door and leave their own legacy of love. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob and Margie. This month, our community outreach recipient is Feeding America, Feeding Tampa Bay. All the money will go to support families in the Tampa Bay area. Please support generously. Offerings can be given towards your pledge, the general fund, or Feeding Tampa Bay. When giving, please designate how you want your contribution directed. If you are attending in person, you can put a cash donation in one of the envelopes in the pew and write on the envelope how you want your contribution directed. Loose cash will be counted as a general fund contribution. Those of you online can go online to uuc.org, and there's the giving button, and you can contribute that way. A religious person is a grateful person. The grateful person is a generous person. Will the ushers please come forward to receive the morning offering? Your offering is of great value today. Each person's gift matters and will be used to advance the ministries of the Unitarian Universalists of Clearwater and Feeding Tampa Bay. It is through many gifts that the congregation ministers. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Michael Kahn, and I have the privilege of reading an excerpt from a story located in my grandfather's blessings by Dr. Rachel Naomi Riemann. Before I start, I'd like to congratulate Reverend Amy and whoever else is behind the initiative as we sign the cards that are being distributed right now.
That would be Mark Brandt.
Mark, thank you very much, Mark Brandt. As was mentioned, anti-Semitism is definitely on the rise, as it has for over millennia. It goes through cycles. And I think it's a great idea to let our neighbors know in the Jewish community that we're thinking about them now, and even have a few cards in reserve for hopefully not to be used future events. Rachel wrote about an experience she had when she was in first grade. Her teacher at school talked about Hanukkah and the Maccabees, the fierce Jewish warriors who had long fought against a great battle to defend the Jewish people, who fought until all provisions had run out, even the oil for the eternal lamp that was so low the people thought the end of the world was near, and how they used the last of the oil found that had burned for 8 days, much longer than estimated, and how the Maccabees took it as a sign that God was on their side. Rachel was troubled because A, there was a war involved, and B, that God had played favorites. So she asked her grandfather, a rabbi, about Hanukkah. She wrote that he responded in the following story. "Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah," he said, "and so we will light one candle." He took up his Bible, opened it to the first page. The oldest story about darkness and light is the story of the beginning of the world. He told me, and he began to read. "In the beginning, darkness was over the waters, and the Spirit of God moved in the darkness like a great wind over the face of the waters. And God said, 'Let there be light.' I looked at my grandfather, his face shining with the power of these words. I was enthralled. 'This is how the world begins, Neshama,' he said to me. 'Life and all of its blessings begins with God's gift of life.' Now," he said, "I will turn out the lamps, and there will be darkness like there was in the beginning. We will see what it is like to receive this gift." At the time, I was afraid of the dark and thought of turning out the lights was not an easy thought for me. "Will you stay right here with me in the dark, Grandpa?" I said a little shakily. "Of course, Neshama," he replied. "I will be here, and God will be too. Tell me when you are ready to start." When I nodded, my grandfather reached behind him and turned out both the lamps. The old study was a room without windows, lined floor to ceiling with books. It was very dark indeed. After a minute or so, my grandfather struck a match, lit the candle I was holding. It didn't give up much light, and I could barely make out the menorah on the table. The rest of the room was filled with shadow. I held onto my candle tightly. Pointing to the single candle in the menorah, he told me to light it with my candle. Then he took my candle from me and placed it in the menorah too. Basically looked like what we see before us. I looked at the two candles burning together and felt a little better. "Tomorrow," said my grandfather, "we will light another one." So the next afternoon at sunset, we sat together in the darkness again. This time my grandfather had placed 2 candles in the great candlestick. When he lit my candle, I carefully lit the 2 candles from its flame, first one and then the other. We sat and we watched the 3 of them burning for a long time. We did this every day for a week. As the days went by, I lit 3 and then 4 candles until on the final day I had lit all 7 candles with my candle and the room was filled with light. I sat back, looked at the menorah with all its candles burning. It was so beautiful that my heart ached and tears filled my eyes. "It's beautiful, Grandpa," I told him. "Ah, yes," said Grandfather, "but God's menorah is even more beautiful, Neshimala. God's menorah is made of people, not of candles." Puzzled, I turned to look at him. The story of Hanukkah says that God's light burns in the darkness even without oil. And it is so, said my grandfather. That is one of the miracles of the light. But there is more. There is a place in everyone that can carry the light. God has made us this way. When God says, "Let there be light," he is speaking to us personally, Neshimala. He is telling us what is possible, how we might choose to live. But one candle does not do too much in the darkness. God has not only given us the chance to carry the light, he has made it possible for us to kindle and strengthen the light in one another, passing the light along. This is the way that God's light will shine forever in this world. After many years, I have found that often we discover the place in us that carries the light only after it has become dark. Sometimes it is only in the dark that we know the value of this place. But there is a place in everyone that can carry light. This is true. My grandfather said so.